My name is Cassidy Harlow, and I'm 28 years old. Foundations don't collapse with a bang. They whisper before they fail. A hairline crack, a soft seam in the soil, a beam that hums under load if you stand in the right quiet. You document, you test, you brace. If you wait for the dramatic part, you're already under rubble. Adrian Keene is 26 and allergic to quiet. He photographs beautifully. He can turn a Tuesday into a premiere and a rideshare story into a parable about destiny. In the beginning, he said my calm steadied him. I believed that was balance. His sparkle, my structure. I made spreadsheets for our future, automatic transfers for a down payment, a private folder named Later. Later meant a ring, a mortgage, a life with cabinets that actually closed. Last Tuesday, he came home from catch-up drinks. His smile didn't reach his eyes. There was a tremor in his hands that wasn't caffeine. Cass, he said, like the one syllable could soften anything. We need to talk. Those are never good words. He sat across from me as if we were already negotiating a settlement. He reached for my hand and missed the way you might miss a rung on a ladder you'd climbed 1,000 times. Just say it, I told him, because ripping bandages is a kindness. She's pregnant, he said. Thea. The ex-girlfriend, the one he swore he was over, the one who'd taught him important lessons, the one currently engaged to a man named Miles Denby, whose family has a last name you can Google. Thea with the careful hair, the tasteful posts, the way of speaking like every sentence already imagined its caption. I didn't speak. Sometimes silence is the only accurate instrument. It happened during the break, Adrian rushed on. 2 months ago. We weren't together. That matters, right? We had that stupid fight about me being on my phone at dinner, and you said you needed space. We took space. I ran into Thea. We had drinks. One thing led to another. We were on a break, I repeated, flat, because repetition is useful when you're checking a structure for flex. You didn't use protection? He didn't answer quickly enough. How far along? I asked. 8 weeks. The numbers lined up like a grim little spreadsheet. The timing, the bar where he once posted a boomerang of a whiskey flight, the after-hours lights. Does Miles know? That's the thing. He leaned in, and entitlement has a temperature when it gets close. He can't. Not with their wedding in 4 months. It would blow up her entire life. Her parents would... Look, it's bad. Mine too. Everyone. But there's a solution that protects everyone. I could feel the hairline crack become a line you can trace with a finger. Adrian, I said quietly, choose your next words with care. We should get married, quick. Courthouse, before anyone starts asking questions. Then when it all comes out, if it comes out, it looks like I'm doing the right thing, No scandal. Thea's wedding stays on track, and we can present it as maturity, as family stepping up. You and I were already headed there anyway. You want me to marry you, I said, so your pregnant ex can marry someone else without a ripple. He flinched. When you say it like that, how else is there to say it? It's not like I'm asking you to be a stepmom day one. We'll figure it out. Maybe. Maybe Thea and Miles raise the baby and everyone moves on. Or if things change, I'll take responsibility. We'll co-parent. You'll be amazing. You always are. Cass, this is your chance to be the bigger person. This is what real love looks like. Protecting everyone. Real love, I echoed, means I changed the title on my life because you didn't wear a condom. He swallowed. It was one mistake. One mistake, I said. That requires me to restructure my entire existence to perform your nobility. He reached for my knee. I pulled back. Please, he said, and now the tremor in his hands wasn't caffeine or guilt. Cass, think about it. We don't have to tell our families yet. We can make it romantic. Just us, our truth. People will judge no matter what. Let them judge us for doing the right thing. Our truth. A phrase that always means my version. I told him I needed time. Relief flickered across his face like a match in wind. He thought he'd won a crucial vote. He kissed my forehead and started talking venues. Something small, intimate, available next Saturday. He'd found a planner who could rush everything. He talked about photos that captured courage. He talked about controlling the narrative. I cooked us dinner that night from muscle memory. He kept touching my arm like gratitude could be transmitted by fingertip. He didn't notice I salted the pasta twice. After he showered, he left his phone on the coffee table, face down, screen lighting the underside like a lantern. I didn't touch it. Not then. I didn't need to. People who believe the story is theirs to control always leave a trail. It's not even arrogance, it's physics. I emailed my older sister, Lena, subject line, hypothetical. She's a family law attorney who keeps her suit jackets in a spectrum of weather. She called immediately. Define hypothetical, she said. I told her the bones. She said words like guardianship, reputational fraud, coercive control. She said, do not sign anything that looks like an adoption plan. Do not put yourself on any paperwork as a guardian. And if he's trying to launder this through a marriage license, remember, you owe no one your reputation as a human shield. I'm not signing anything, I said. But you're not going to blow it up tonight either, Lena guessed. No. Why? Because for once, I said, and the admission felt like a wire snapping into place. I want him to feel the consequences in the room with him, not in a text, not in a private fight he can reframe later. In the room. Cass, she said gentler, be careful. I'll be careful, I said, and loud. The next morning, Adrian woke me with coffee and a spreadsheet he'd made, my language, used against me, titled Our Story. It contained bullet points of things he wanted memorized. How we decided to elope. Mutual decision. 2 in love to wait. Why we weren't telling family yet. Want the focus on us, not noise. A backdated timeline he insisted would head off questions. Even a note about how we'd explain an early baby if anyone did math wrong in the future. Family history of premature births, he'd typed. As if family histories were little ledgers you could forge with a keystroke. Seems like a lot of lies to remember, I said, neutral. They're not lies, he said quick. They're protective truths. He had a doctor's appointment for Thea on Friday. He wanted me there as support, wanted me to be seen, wanted pictures of the noble girlfriend in a waiting room she didn't belong in. You told them I'm the partner? I asked. He hesitated. Insurance forms, it's easier. Fraud is often easy, I said. He didn't like that. He changed the subject to rings. Nothing extravagant, he said. We need to be responsible for the baby. I smiled the way you smile when you've mapped the cracks and already ordered the bracing. You're right, I said. We should celebrate, though, not the wedding. We'll keep that just us. But let's have a party 2 weeks after, a celebration of love. Invite everyone at once. No telephone game. Our truth, right? I watched his pupils dilate at the word control. He nodded like I'd offered oxygen. That's actually brilliant, he said. We can tell the whole story then. Tight, clean. Tight and clean, I agreed, and pictured a projector warming up to a blue screen, a room full of ears, a voice memo cued like a fuse. That afternoon, while Adrian napped off his courage, his phone vibrated itself halfway under the couch. It wasn't snooping when I pulled it free. It was retrieval. The screen woke to a banner preview. Thea Morell. He'll marry her and keep this quiet. Miles doesn't need to know. The hum of the beam. The soft seam in the soil. The hairline crack was no longer hairline. It was a line the building had chosen. I put the phone where I found it. I opened my laptop. I created an event. Celebration of love. Cassidy and Adrian's special announcement. I added both families, friends, co-workers, and 2 special guests, Thea Morell and Miles Denby. I didn't add a description. Let the caption write itself when the room was full. By Thursday, the house felt like a stage set built slightly out of square. Everything looked normal until you touched it and the seams complained. Adrian went into logistics overdrive. He booked a courthouse slot for Saturday morning, found a last-minute romantic restaurant for after, and added calendar invites titled with emojis so our lives would look whimsical on the screen. He kept kissing my temple like gratitude could be stapled on. Think beach tones for the party, he said, scrolling swatches. Soft light, forgiving on older relatives. We'll keep speeches short, tight, clean. Tight and clean, I echoed, and texted Lena under the table. Projector secured. Audio workable? Her reply came fast. Yes. Also, do not let him put you on any medical forms. None. That afternoon, Adrian left to meet a planner who specialized in tender narratives. His phone chirped against the counter, face up, like a fish too tired to flop. Banners stacked. Thea, you told her you'll marry before any rumors? Adrian, it's handled. We're a team. Your wedding stays intact. Thea, Miles can't know. He'd call off everything. I'm sick thinking about it. Adrian, breathe. After the church vows, the baby has stability. Thea, what about her? Adrian, Cassidy's steady. She gets it. She'll be the face of forgiveness. My mouth tasted like metal. I took screenshots, backed up, emailed into a folder named Bracing. A different thread glowed, the group chat he'd titled The Boys Like a Sitcom. Friend 1. You sure this party's smart? Adrian. It's perfect. Everyone hears our truth at once. Friend 2. And Thea? Adrian. She's fine. She just needs me to manage optics until the wedding. Friend 1. Miles is loaded, right? Adrian. Don't be gross. Friend 2. You're the one laundering a timeline, my dude. Adrian. It's not laundering. It's love with leadership. I stared until the words blurred into scaffolding. He came home with a garment bag and buoyant relief. Found a dress for you, he announced, then caught himself. I mean, if you want to wear something new, no pressure. What did the planner say? I asked. That stories land best when they're simple, he said. We lead with how we're soulmates. Then the rest becomes details. Details, I said. He opened his laptop at the table. Our story, version 2.1, bloomed in a shared doc. He'd expanded the script. How we decided to elope. The world is loud. We chose each other. Why families weren't told. We want to protect our joy. If anyone asks about timing, our families have a history of early arrivals. If asked about Thea, kindly say we won't discuss other people's private matters. Memorize this, he said gently, like offering tea. People are nosy. People are structural loads, I said. If you pour the slab wrong, the house spends its life compensating. He laughed, assuming metaphor meant consent. God, I love when you talk engineer. Friday morning, he woke me before dawn. Thea's appointment is at 8, he said. You should come. It's important for optics. For optics, I repeated. Did you tell the office I was the partner? It was just a checkbox, he said too fast. Insurance is tricky if we're not, yet. Fraud is trickier, I said. I won't present as next of kin. I'll sit in the waiting room. He pouted like a child denied a prop. You're making this harder. I'm making it accurate. In the elevator, he practiced lines under his breath, the way some people hum. In the clinic lobby, Thea looked smaller than she did online, as if the pixels had been carrying some of her confidence. She wore beige like a shield. Her smile at me was the kind you use on flight attendants. Cassidy, she said, thank you for being so generous. Generosity functions best with transparency, I said, light. Congratulations. Color rose up her neck. Adrian jumped into the space like a referee. We're all doing what's best, he chirped. Teamwork. When they vanished behind the door marked authorized only, I opened my voice memos and replayed the one I'd saved the night before. Adrian, late, drunk soft with his buddies, leaving me a rambling voicemail. You're amazing for doing this, Cass. You being my wife, even with Thea pregnant. That's love, right? You're saving everyone. Thea can have her wedding. Miles never has to know. It's all under control. He laughed at his own brilliance. Then, as if the universe ran out of patience, called me reliable cover. I labeled the memo Load Test 1. At noon, I met Lena at a cafe where the mugs chipped in ways that looked intentional. She wore a navy blazer damp with rain, hair twisted like a knot that would never come undone. Show me, she said. I slid my phone across. She read the threads, the memo transcript, our story. Her mouth flattened. This is coercive narrative management, she said. He wants to conscript your reputation to protect his past and her future. If you marry him before the reveal, you become the fix and the scapegoat. I'm not marrying him, I said. Good, she said, then gentled. Are you safe, Cass? I mean emotionally. This kind of gaslight, the soft, pretty kind, cuts. I'm steady, I said, and loud, remember? She squeezed my hand. Then aim your speakers. That night, Adrian staged romance like a set decorator. Candles, mismatched jars. I picked a ring, he said, opening a small box. It was tasteful, modest, designed for captions about knowing when it's right. Nothing too expensive, he added. We need to be practical. For the baby. For the baby, I echoed. He took a photo of our hands near the box without showing the ring. Posted, some guys just know when it's time. The comments bloomed as expected. Hearts, exclamation points, future mother-in-law emojis. He blushed with what he thought was privacy. His sister called, then his mother, then mine. He declined most, sent a couple to voicemail, texted others. We'll share everything at the celebration, promise. See, he said, eyes bright, controlled, no leaks. Perfect, I said. and set up the slideshow on my laptop. Title slide blue, next slide labeled with a simple waveform, next with 4 text bubbles and timestamps, next with our story, but highlighted in the places where it contradicted his private messages. I rehearsed connecting the phone to the venue's sound system twice, then again. 2 days out, he handed me a printed schedule for Saturday. Breakfast, rideshare, courthouse, happy tears, late lunch, early night. At the bottom, he'd written, "We're the adults in the room." "Say it with me?" he asked. "We're the adults in the room," I said. He kissed me like I'd signed something. When he fell asleep, I padded to the living room and called the venue to confirm the AV setup. I added 2 more names to the guest list, double-checking emails: Thea Morell, Miles Denby. I imagined the moment a sound becomes a structure, vibration, then recognition, then consequence. By morning, the city had that glassy sky that makes everything look more expensive than it is. Adrian held my face in his hands like a director framing a shot. "Ready?" he asked. "I am," I said, and meant it. At the courthouse, the clerk slid forms at us with practiced neutrality. My pen hovered. Adrian's signature flowed like a practiced autograph. "Just a second," I said, and stepped back. My pulse was a metronome. "I need air," I told the clerk, smiling apologetically. Big moment. Adrian's eyes widened. "Cass?" "2 minutes," I said, and walked out into sunlight that felt like a nod. I did not come back. My phone detonated with calls as I rode the elevator to the ground floor, then the rideshare to Lena's. I turned it face down on her kitchen table and listened to it buzz like a trapped wasp. Denial, anger, bargaining, self-pity, back to anger, the cycle of men who mistake control for love. When it finally stilled, I flipped it over. 1 new voicemail, his voice frayed. "We can fix this, Cass. Don't humiliate me. Don't humiliate yourself. Think of everyone else. Think of the narrative." I saved it as load test 2. 2 weeks, I told Lena, staring out at the rain silvering her fire escape. Then the party. "And then?" she asked. "Then we let the building speak." 2 weeks crawled by, like a held breath that never exhaled. Adrian didn't stop trying. The messages came in waves, apologies framed as strategy, guilt disguised as love. Monday. "You made your point. Can we move on?" Wednesday. "You're ruining what could still be beautiful." Friday. "If you don't show up at the celebration, people will think I did something wrong." Every word was scaffolding, meant to hold up his version of events. He didn't realize the scaffolding had already been wired for demolition. When Saturday arrived, the venue shimmered like denial polished to a shine. Warm light, soft jazz, a perfect stage for sincerity. The sign by the door read, "Celebration of Love, Cassidy and Adrian's special announcement." Thea and Miles were on the guest list under Friends from Work. I'd sent them digital invitations from a shared email, so Adrian couldn't trace the source. Lena stood near the bar, phone in hand, her expression all courtroom calm. "Audio check?" she murmured. "Ready," I said. "Mic check follows champagne." By the time Adrian arrived, the room was already full. His parents, mine, colleagues, a small army of relatives wearing expectation like perfume. He looked impeccable. Dark suit, soft tie, the posture of a man who'd rehearsed sincerity in mirrors. When he spotted me near the stage, he smiled with relief, so pure it almost hurt to look at. "Cass," he whispered, gripping my hand. "You came." "Of course," I said. "You invited everyone." He didn't catch the undertone. He was too busy scanning the crowd, ensuring all the right eyes were present. "Okay," he said, clapping his hands once. "Let's make this perfect." The DJ cued a gentle instrumental. Adrian took the microphone. "Thank you all for being here," he began, voice smooth, practiced. "Cassidy and I have been through a lot these past few weeks, ups, downs, misunderstandings, but through it all, one thing's been clear. Love wins when you fight for it." There it was, his pivot, his redemption arc, written by him, for him. I stepped closer, smiling in a way that photographs would later struggle to interpret. "Mind if I say something?" I asked. He blinked, caught off script. "Of course, baby." I turned toward the guests. "First," I said, "thank you for coming. We wanted everyone we care about in one place. There's been a lot of talk about timelines, about choices, about doing the right thing." Adrian's smile froze, polite and terrified. "So," I said softly, "we'd like to clear that up." The room hushed the way buildings hush before they move. I connected my phone to the sound system. The soft chime of Bluetooth pairing rang louder than any drum roll. Adrian's head tilted. His jaw twitched. "Cass," he said under his breath, "what are you doing?" "Playing our truth," I said. And then his voice filled the speakers. "You're amazing for doing this, Cass. You being my wife, even with Thea pregnant, that's love, right? You're saving everyone. Thea can have her wedding. Miles never has to know. It's all under control." Gasps rippled through the crowd like a physical wave. Someone dropped a glass. Someone whispered, "Thea?" I turned to the back of the room. "Thea Morell," I said clearly, "is Adrian's ex-girlfriend. She's also here tonight, with her fiancé, Miles Denby." Thea's face drained of color. Miles's went the opposite direction. Dark, storm red. Adrian reached for the mic, voice cracking. "This is out of context." "Context?" I said. "You want context? Let's add visuals." The projector lit up. The first slide appeared. Our story. Highlighted lines glowed neon yellow. Family history of premature births. Keep the baby's timeline vague. Frame elopement as romantic impulse. Murmurs rose again. Adrian's mother pressed her hand to her chest. Next slide. Screenshots of texts between Adrian and Thea. His words. "She'll be the face of forgiveness." Hers. "Miles never needs to know." Miles stood up so fast his chair toppled. Thea whispered his name, but he was already walking out. Adrian lunged for the laptop cable. "You hacked me!" "No," I said. "You left it open." He turned to the crowd, desperation cracking his voice. "She's twisting everything. She's vindictive." "Vindictive would have been silence," I said. "This is documentation." Thea began crying. Adrian's father muttered, "Good God, son." My mother took Lena's hand. I advanced one more slide, the group chat labeled "The Boys." His friends' comments about laundering timelines, his responses about love with leadership. "That's enough," he shouted. "Exactly," I said, and disconnected the feed. The room, now dark except for the reflection of a dozen phone screens, seemed to exhale. "I didn't plan to humiliate you, Adrian," I said. "You did that when you turned honesty into a PR campaign." His expression shifted through stages of grief at high speed. Shock, fury, appeal. "You've destroyed everything." "No," I said. "I've stopped pretending it was built right." He turned toward the crowd. "You're all seeing a performance." "And you're used to directing them," I interrupted. "But tonight's mine." The silence that followed was dense enough to stand on. I set the mic down gently. "The bar's open for another hour. Thank you for coming." Then I walked out. Behind me, the room erupted. Shouts, sobs, chairs scraping. Thea's crying, tangled with her mother's scolding. Miles's shoes pounding the hallway. Adrian's voice trying to resurrect control from the ashes. Outside, the night air smelled like freedom and static. Lena caught up with me, laughing under her breath. "That," she said, "was seismic." "Maybe now," I said. "The load finally shifts where it belongs." We walked to her car as sirens wailed somewhere far off. Not for us, but fitting anyway. 3 months later, life hummed quieter, like the ground after heavy machinery moves on. Word got around fast. Thea and Adrian were working things out, which meant mutual resentment under one mortgage. Miles left town, apparently thriving. The families stopped sending statements to the gossip blogs. Adrian texted me once, a month after the reveal. "Hope you're happy. You destroyed multiple lives for a headline." I replied, "No, I prevented a lifetime of lies." He blocked me. Lena calls it controlled demolition. My therapist calls it reclaiming narrative space. I just call it honesty, with good lighting. Sometimes I replay the moment when the voicemail filled the room, the sound of pretense collapsing. There's a silence right after, right before the noise begins again. That silence felt like balance. Foundations don't fail loudly, but when they're rebuilt right, you can stand on them without listening for the hum.